Welcome everybody to our weekly energy update. My name is Jona Bryndis and this is airing from transCODES, energy healing and energy coaching. This energy forecast / update will be for January 5th till January 11th. Welcome back everybody. I hope you had a good transition into the new year. And as always, know that you can ask live questions here. This is why I'm doing this live. So please comment or ask questions. And most of all, let me know where you're from. So good to see you. Hi, Canada. All right, guys. If you've been watching those energy updates for a while, you know what I do. I reflect on collective energies for energetically sensitives, empaths, and people who would say about themselves that they're awakening. And I'm offering a rather unique view on things. I'm putting things that happen on our outside world and in the collective into perspective with our inner processes. And if you've watched last week's energy update, hello Australia, I'm so glad you're here. And if you watched last week's update, I predicted a few sort of tricky kind of situations, or in probably, most likely in regards to domestic things at home, relationship related, family related. And as far as I can tell here, energy coaching and energy working with hundreds of people every week from all over the world, this came true. And you will be very relieved to see that there is a little bit of green in this week's energy barometer. So yes, things are calming down a bit if you are okay with that, if you are okay to let go some of the things that you've noticed or that have come to your attention last week, namely, you can't keep doing what you're doing. You're sick and tired of your own sick and tiredness, and you can no longer, stay in, whatever the situation displayed or how this played out for you in your relationship or in your career. All right. So last week was a little bit of hitting rock bottom. Okay, so first we always reflect a little bit on last week, and then we go into how next week's energies are going to perhaps, maybe play out for us. I reflect on the crypto market, the crypto world, Bitcoin world. As you all know, I think this is an important connection here in what happens in the world. And what happens in the crypto world. There's a major link here, and therefore I've started adding this to the energy reports. And then we're going to close up with energy tips, and please ask questions about your personal situation or maybe things that you're experiencing right now physically, energetic sensations, the energy centers that are affected and so forth. If time permits, I usually produce a written energy report, and there, this link that I just mentioned, not just between economy and our personal processes, but also, how these things affect us energetically. All that becomes clear in the energy reports. All right, so coming back to the summary and sort of what people have been experiencing. So we're going through a massive transformation, ready or not. The energies for 2018, ready or not, okay, which kind of expresses that there's going to be changes coming that we have not anticipated this way, or that we have a struggle with adapting to. And for the last, I think, 3, 4, 5 weeks, I've been stressing adaptability, our ability to move with the flow and to be in a state of centeredness so that we can respond rather than react. And I'm going to go deeper into this here today, the different stages of adaptation. But at the same time, we have to honor the things that come forward. And last week was one of those release weeks, meaning there was a lot that we just couldn't hold in anymore. Okay, so the holidays were done with, and we've gotten through this, and now we found ourselves back at the same place. Unfulfilled, unhappy, or perhaps feeling this inner calling, to make changes. And if you felt something like this, then you are right on track. Okay, whether this meant that you had issues, with maybe relapsing into your coping mechanisms, or maybe going back and forth in relationships. I know that a lot of people went through massive fights about certain things, probably unconsciously related as to how they want to move forward. And I recommended to go into this renegotiation with your partner, and this will continue here for the next week, but on a much calmer level. All right, so this will be a little easier for you. But for the most part, many of us have kind of hit rock bottom there, and are now sort of going into this cognitive dissonance phase. We're renegotiating with ourselves. And first we're negotiating about becoming real, or seeing things for what they truly are. So we're not quite there yet as far as like fully accepting, what is going on. But at least we're dealing with it now. This is sort of the new energy that is coming in. So we got past the full moon, and now we're getting into like, okay, I'm realizing my losses. Okay, I'm realizing where I'm at, and now is time to find solutions, to maybe reflect and connect. And so this is the threshold on which we are standing here right now. And if you want to move forward in a constructive way, and I want to stress the word constructive, okay, there's always, of course, the opportunity when we hit rock bottom to go into our exit strategies. And exit strategies usually have something to do with denial, with distraction, with, like prohibiting us to actually see things for what they are. So we're kind of dodging reality. And I called this like sweeping things under the rug last week. If you can get past this now and really observe and reflect on your attitudes towards certain things, not just your partner or your family, also your life altogether. Though many of you have witnessed here the broadcast series that we had every day for 12 days, called Getting Through the Holidays. If this is time-sensitive material, but we're talking energetically sensitives here. So everything that was reported in these 12 days, is still within that time window of what we are experiencing right now. We are reflecting it on it from a perspective of energetically sensitive people. But, usually this means that mainstream or normies, as we so lovingly called them throughout the series, start dealing with these things a little later. So even if you are, at this point of willingness to reconstruct your reality, many people around you, and this can affect your family and your bosses or your co-workers or your relationship partners, are just now starting to get there. All right. Again, here it's important that you honor everybody's timeline in their own transformation processes, and that you don't judge them. That's really, really important, especially for the next week, because you want to stay productive. So going into exit strategies, developing ideas of how you can, do vengeance or pay them back or teach them a lesson. All these things are really like the old week's energies. Okay, that's if you want to go into conflict, if you want to go into reactivity, if you want to go into lashing out, continue doing this. But if you want to start working on not only releasing what is no longer conducive or needed for you, but also, inviting these new energies to come in and help you to create a little bit of a roadmap here for this new year, then you have to let go of your judgments, especially, the beliefs, the belief patterns, and, your entire attitude towards, what is it, your job, your life, your relationship, your kids, for that matter. Yeah. So watch your attitude. That's one of the energy tips that I have for this coming week. Also, one thing that I noticed talking with people about, adjusting and adapting to these changing environmental conditions is that a lot of people here in this, sort of consciousness awakening, spiritual development circles are aware that there's a need for clearing. We have, for instance, like a year-end special here where every year towards the year-end and the beginning of the year, we offer discounts on clearing sessions because it helps people to create a little bit of a clean slate. But what many people don't know or can't fully see yet is that every time you clear out things, whether it's energetically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, or physically, you're going to have to do something after you did this. And I think I mentioned this last week. I said, there's something I've learned from Native Americans, and that is that with the clearing, with the smudging, with sage, there immediately has to come the sweet grass, the inviting the positive energies in. And I really want you to get this, because when you clear things out, like say you do an energetic clearing, or even if you do a detox, like say nutritionally or physically or whatever, this is not enough, guys. Something has to happen. This clearing creates a bit of a vacuum inside of you. There were some patterns in place, like your coping patterns and so forth, that had a purpose. Now you clear stuff out, even, on a physical level. And then what? For it to become a habit, for it to, turn into more conducive, more productive conditions, you have to invite these new energies in. And the way you do this is through connecting. And here, one of the energy tips later is in order to connect with something, you have to allow yourself to feel it. If you are at a point where you realize your relationship really isn't as you had hoped for or as you had expected, and you want this to be in a certain way, but you're realizing, man, this is just not working with this relationship or the job, or we talked about the different layers, then you're gonna have to give that new life, relationship, job, financial situation the right space to come in, and you have to focus on preparing that space. Some of the things that I talked a lot about this week is like when it comes to conscious manifestation and creating a better condition for these things that you truly want to come in, is to prepare for it. And of course you all know the dynamics of manifestations. We talked about this here on day 12 of the day 11 of the getting through the holidays. There's an abundance training in that recording with all the different energetic aspects to how to align yourself to abundance and happiness and joy. And so once you can answer what I truly want, and you move into how you want it. So this is kind of like this week is characterized by the question, how we want it. And let me ask you something here real quick. I'm getting messages that people are not seeing me. Do you have a visual? Do you have an audio, guys? Just give me a little bit of feedback here. Yeah. Okay, it's working now. Okay, cool. There's a little bit of delay, and that has to do with the internet and how many people are on there and so forth. So sorry for that. I see myself here in real time, but you're seeing me in with seconds or minutes of delay. So depending on how busy the internet is, the delay will increase through that. Yes, so where were we? Oh, creating the right conditions and the ins and outs of manifestation. This is really, really important, guys. Just clearing is not doing the job. You have to create the space. Oh, and what we've been talking about a lot here this week is like, if there are things that you found out that what you really want in life and how you want it. Like say, I take an example that some of you who had energy coaching with me this week will recognize, but just as a symbolic, representation of that. Like say, you really, really love gardening, you love nature, and you would love to have this in your life, like say, with a nice garden or even a little bit of a greenhouse or whatever, perhaps even, growing your own foods and so forth. But you live in an apartment that has no garden. Okay, so how do you think this is going to manifest for you? Like some magical, mystical thing happens and all of a sudden you have a garden? No, it requires you to do the necessary steps to move forward in regards to like perhaps finding a different kind of apartment, finding a different place to live. The same, of course, applies to many other things in our lives that represent, our core values, like what we truly, truly want, what we know, what makes us feel loved, what we know, what makes us feel safe, what we know, that can help us deal with anything. In relationships, it's often the ability to resolve things, the ability to talk about things, the ability, you don't have to have all the fixes there, and you don't have to have, we're starting to have the light again, the light's coming in, the ability or potentiality of actually becoming able to deal with no matter what, to become adaptable. And if you are at a stage with your partner where you realize, what, honestly, I can't even talk about things without him or her blowing up, without this leading to a massive drama, in our relationship. How can I actually ever resolve issues if there's this constant, push, pull, manipulation, back and forth going on? Without ever really getting to, the core of the stuff that needs to be resolved. So my tip here, let me adjust to this incoming light. There you go. I'm seeing this here. Yeah. What would life be without needing to adapt to whatever situation comes along? This is really annoying. The reason why this took me a little longer to come on is because I actually had to put up a few barriers for the light. However, I can't prevent this from coming in. So what am I going to do? Okay, just give me a second here. All right, I hope that this works out. All right, so what can you do if you realize that a situation, has very little potentiality to change? Okay, of course you can drop it. You can end the relationship, end the job, and try to find a new job. But let me ask you, a really important question. Is your problem really resolved if you exchange the partner, if you exchange the job, if you change the apartment? This is a very, very important thing to ask yourself. What can I even change? And sometimes also, is this actually my responsibility to change? Hey, Ireland. Yes, okay. I'm glad this is all working now. So, is this my responsibility? This question will come up many times this year, because there are things that are simply not your job to change. Sometimes your job is to just walk out. But, is the walking out maybe a premature exit strategy? Is that actually resolving anything? So, whatever the solutions are that you come up with, you need to ask you have to do the congruence check and the check with yourself, as in regards to, is this actually truly what I want? Is this resolving things? And for that, I want to strongly remind everybody that all these things such as getting angry, lashing out, venting, are usually distraction mechanisms, as well as, constantly putting up this wall of disconnection. I'm too tired, I'm too busy, I'm too, all of these things can lead to you not being able to find resolutions, whether this is with your partner or with yourself. And before we go into the crypto news here now, I want to show you something. These are the different stages of adapting through our energy system, let's say. So some of you have seen a similar graph which represents the different density layers of our energy system. And here you'll find that, the red, orange, represents the physical, the orange, the emotional, the yellow, the mental, the green, the heart level, and the blue, the etheric level, our karmic ties and inner child stuff and so forth. And the purple represents the energetic level, the divine consciousness aspect in us. Those are schematics of how these energies, new or old, replicate throughout our energy system. So the stages of adaptation, which are I took the stages of grieving and tried to transpose this over to a personal journey here. You can see what happens, and I can't point there with my mouse pointer right now, but there's first, we go into denial, and that is something that happened sort of 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Like we don't want to deal with things. We're putting up resistance. We just want to get through the holidays. We would fight the fire putter outer mode. Fire putter outer, even though it seems like we're resolving things or we're fixing things, is honestly often not fixing anything. It's just like sort of trying to maintain the status quo, trying to maintain what we have, trying to maintain our comfort zone, which is also why there's so much resistance in that phase. And then comes the anger and the venting. This is what happened last week. Okay, this is like, I can't stand this anymore. I can't do this any longer. I've had it. That's it. And then comes the bargaining, okay? And the bargaining is something that most of you are very familiar with, and that often reflects in our cognitive dissonances, in our so-called critical inner voice. Okay, the critical inner voice is part of bargaining. You're still trying to find a way out, and you're arguing, and you're like going back and forth, and that's often really also characterized by this looping. And yes, Val, I'm going to explain. I'm going to go into how relationship problems affect our kids. I see your question. Wonderful question. So bargaining, this is where most people are right now. Okay, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance, a lot of looping going on. And those of you who are, empathetic, we go into the next phase, which is a form of depression, loneliness, and hitting rock bottom type of phase a little earlier than the rest of the population, simply because we can feel this more, the longing for actually connecting with something, the belonging, and we're actually hurting more from being separated and disconnected than, being connected to dysfunctional things, which is why there are so many codependents amongst us. all right? Because there's almost like a physical pain when we cannot connect. And this kind of forces us into the connecting and reflecting about things. This is why you guys are here. This is, what we do here at transCODES. We take care of you when you're in this phase, in the awakening phase, when you can start feeling the pain and you just don't know what to do yet. Okay, so this is what transCODES does, and what energy coaching and energy sessions can do for you. So this is kind of like where I've seen most people go through this, like highly sensitive people this weekend. Often, triggered by full moon energies, because full moon energies put like the amplifier on. Okay. Hey, Trinidad. Wonderful. So the next phase that has to come now, if we want to have a productive and constructive way into, adapting to changing reality. Oftentimes it's not so much the outer changes. People are so fixated on outer changes. They want me to talk about, predictions and earth changes and all that. Yes, and they come in as additional factors. But trust me, it's the change within you that is way more dramatic, and that requires you to be in way more sort of, I don't want to say control, but awareness, about what is going on. And of course, we've talked about this at length here in the past weeks, discernment. For you to even be able to discern whether energies are coming in from the outside, or whether they are triggered through, your own processes, that requires a little bit of training. But those of you who are already actively working on this, you can really go into manifestation this week. And that's, another of my energy tips for this week, explore your options. And the way you can do this, I mentioned this last week, a little bit. I said, talk, renegotiate. So this is really important now. After you've reflected on your attitude, after you perhaps, cleared some of your old beliefs, or the patterns that are attached to those beliefs, now you got to go into this active phase of, okay, then let's see what we've got, let's see what we want, and how we can make this possible. So those of you who are in this sort of impotence in your relationships, for you, this is a really, really good week now to talk about things, and to after this release has happened now, to take out all the anger, to take out all the fear and uncertainty and doubt. We talked about this last week, and to say, okay, let's just be constructive here. Let's see how we can reconstruct things, how we can create a new structure, a new rhythm for us. We discussed things here at our home, in my house, about maybe making changes in regards to timing, schedules, and so forth, because there's an issue here a lot of times where the whole energy of the family goes down because we're just simply tired or hungry. And yes, wow, this is one of the things that are really important to understand, that energy levels and energy work really is linked to some of the things that we experience. So with this discernment that I mentioned earlier, also comes the ability to see or to feel what you need at a certain moment. And every time you are not giving yourselves, or you're not receiving what you need, there's this cognitive dissonance in us that then leads to emotional release. In other words, let's start simple. Let's start on the physical level. If you are hungry or tired, if you're wearing a hat, hungry and tired, or if you're hangry, as the Americans say, okay, what happens to your energy? It goes low, you go short-fused, snappy, you get stressed out, you want to, get over with what you need to get over with, and then you want to be left alone. So you put up a wall around you, you can't connect at this very moment. And some of us tend to go more into the angry or the lashing out or the aggressive type of of saying when we're wearing a hat, when we're hungry and tired, and so we attack others. We project it onto others and we make them responsible for our situation. Whereas if we would just take care of some of the basics, right, physicality, or emotions, like I say, I had a disappointment at work today, or something didn't go according to plan, or I had an insight today that really sort of shook my core values. Those are these other density levels of our energy system. Then the rule number one is to not project. Because if I feel like this is something that is going on within me, the first thing I need to do is to learn how to create space and how to make others respect my boundaries. And usually the best way to have others respect your boundaries is by showing how you respect their boundaries. So a productive thing to say, and also de-escalating thing to say, is to say, hey, I'm really hungry, I'm really tired right now, I can't talk, I don't want to get involved in any quarrels right now, let me just make the food, or let me get some food, and then we can talk about it, so to create a little bit of a timeout and postpone. It's really important though that you go back and follow up later, so when we create space, we have to remember to revisit, we have to remember to reduce that buffer zone again, and then go towards it again. All right, and I'm seeing your question here, Andrea, so I'll respond to that in a little bit. So this is probably one of the most common family dynamics that I observe, where people's inability to actually feel what they need at a certain point, or of course in the larger context, leads to projection, leads to lashing out, leads to fights, leads to resistance. Now, let's take the younger age group here, anything from any age from 0 to 5, children at that age are not very well equipped yet to realize that the conceptual idea of like, I will feel better if I eat or if I sleep. In other words, young kids cannot express what they need simply because they don't know that. They can say that they're hungry, but they can't say like maybe why they're feeling sad or why they're going into certain states, okay, and they'll just throw tantrums or lash out. You can, and I mean this I don't mean this in a degrading way, but you can observe these stages of inner child in people very well, because lashing out like a 3-year-old or 4-year-old is pretty much exactly where most of us go when our energy goes really low. We go back into that place where we did not find our needs met. And if you want to go a little deeper into this, listen or watch I think it was it day 2? No, it was day 4 of the Getting Through the Holidays, where we had Shoshana here, licensed family and marriage counselor, and we talked about these dynamics of when your needs are not met. But this is one of the big trigger points for all of us, is when there's something we're not getting. This is usually when our ego kicks in, when our coping kicks in, and when all our shadow stuff and our inner child stuff kicks in. And this is what you guys need to work through now. This has been going on for a couple of weeks already, but this week we want to come to closure with this. You really need to let go of these ties. You can't always lash out, when you're a little low. This is not producing any results. This is not producing any constructiveness for your relationships. And in regards to kids, the biggest harm really is the bad role model that we're presenting here to our children. And, if you are energetically sensitive, and especially if both parents are energetically sensitive, there's a very high likelihood that your kids are even more energetically sensitive than you are, which means these things that I mentioned earlier, how can we resolve this? Talking about things, opening things up, revisiting, and really going into this constructive communication. You don't have to have the fix. See, this is the issue with most people. They think they have to have a fix in order to talk about things. No, in order to resolve things, first of all, you need to establish common ground, and you know, sometimes you need to admit to things as well. You know, you need to own things. You know, go into accountability, and out of that comes a process that speeds up the vibratory rate of that entire relationship or family setting, and new resolutions just appear. You know, they just come forward for you. So it's not about knowing the fix. That is a very typical control mechanism or codependent mechanism, is to cave in until you find the presumed fix, without even going into communication with others, what they want, what they need, you know, just you and yourself, you know, coming out of your cognitive dissonances, looping forever, you know, and then presenting a solution that may not honor other people's needs or their wants. Okay, I hope this was sufficient, Val, for showing some of the dynamics. I've talked a lot about this and written many articles about this. So check my blog here on transcodes.com. Yes, I wish I could pronounce your name correctly. So I'm just gonna someone is posting in the chat. I have a question. How do you rechannel the energy of someone who's talking about you in a bad way, and you can feel it like lashes on your back? What do you do to rechannel this energy to be useful for you? Well, first of all, okay, so let me just classify this question. You asking about the energetic dynamics between people, the unseen aspects. As an energetically sensitive, you can feel this when other people gossip about you or when they badmouth you. And yes, if you are trained and if you can localize this, and this will feel like lashes, you know, whips on your back, stabs in your neck, stabs in your heart from behind, linden point, the hooks, and so forth. Those are all very common energetic sensations for empaths. All right, and we teach you here how to deal with this and how to identify those things. But your question goes a step further. How can you know, how do you respond to this? How can you rechannel this? And you're asking how you can rechannel this for yourself. First of all, you can't rechannel this for yourself, okay? Because if somebody chooses to badmouth you and sort of, you know, we just talked about projection, right? When you gossip and badmouth things or other people, really what you're doing is you're projecting your own shadow, your own attachment onto another person, okay? That's the ugly truth of gossiping and being judgmental. Really, for a trained energy worker, you know, that is like an open book. Everything you say about other people reflects deep down, you know, deep down what you feel about yourself. All right, so you know, there's a maliciousness maybe involved, and if you want to work with that energy, you're gonna have to go to that low level of energy, and this is something I do not recommend. You do not need to rechannel. You do not need to do anything about this. In fact, the best way to deal with other people badmouthing you is to go into neutrality, is to, you know, deflect it, not, you know, go into and resist it. The more you resist it, the more you energize it again, okay? And the more power you give the other person. You know, the best way to let a wave or an attack against you run out is to become really wide and to just let this go into infinity, into nothingness. Does this make sense? So the way, you know, the ideal way to deal with gossip and badmouthing directed at you is neutrality. And, you know, for, you know, your peace of mind, you can, of course, go into understanding, you know, and say, well, wow, this person must be really unhappy about herself or himself. You know, you can go into your empathy and see, you know, why they're doing this. But the energy work that is required to neutralize gossip and badmouthing is consolidation. You consolidate in your center, you know who you are, and you energize that instead of going against what somebody else does. Okay. All right, so coming back here to the stages of adapting real quick, we are in this place of exploring options. And, this also requires us to express our needs and what we truly want and how we want this. And we talked last week about the integrity of things and responding rather than reacting. And then we can get to this place, and this is my energy tip for this week, to really focus on accept that things constant change, accept that there's a constant transformation, that there's a constant adaptation. This is what evolution is. This is what improvement is. And it requires you to be adaptable, to be copeable. Remember, and this is then what can really open up your manifestation field and create this new hope and vision. And this is where the energies in this week want to go. They want to go into your vision. All right, into the larger vision, into seeing, like you excelling, and connecting with your calling, connecting with your collective purpose and all that. But you have to create the right space for that. So if you go off like a bomb, every time somebody says something negative about you, well, honestly, your energy is, distracted. It is blocked here in denial or anger. And this is what you're energizing by going against this. So if you want to create a better sort of fertile ground for becoming happier, more joyful, more fulfilled, make more money, have a better career, be more loving and connecting in your relationship, then you really need to learn how to neutralize those things. So basically, what I'm saying is, don't go against things, even if they're malicious, but know where your center is, know what your boundaries are. And speaking up is something that you need to learn this week. Speak up in constructive ways. So if this person has any meaning to you that is sending these negative vibes towards you, then go to this person and say, hey, I'm not sure why you're doing this. The way this feels to me is that you're sending really, really bad vibes. Is this how you want me to feel? Call things out. Create or establish a new common ground. Sometimes these things are based on misunderstandings, and then it's very, very important to talk about them. Okay? So leading, or this is the bridge for me here for a brief overview in the crypto world, crypto news this week. Yes, we had a lot of release. Yes, we had a lot of FUD. Yes, smart money is moving in. What do I mean with smart money? I mean the bigger, the banking money. I've announced this already. And this also means that we have more manipulation and that we have more volatility. So for the last week, we've seen this a shift of market capitalization into the big three, the big four, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and if you want to account Ripple to it, Ripple is not really the same, but I want you to use Ripple as a marker, for what sort of integrity level the money is moving into. Ripple is basically a storefront for the banks. All right, for the old financial system. So every time you see a lot of money moving into Ripple, at least this is my personal theory, you can tell what the energy of that movement is. We are, the whole crypto world is a grassroots movement, and its whole spirit is decentralization, and taking out the middleman, taking out, the banks and the fees and all the restrictions that we have through that. But, within, its means, of feasibility, there have to be, of course, regulations and safety things along with that. But, this is still the birthing stage here, okay? And so everybody's trying to gain control. And as the smart money is moving in, which is happening right now, watch the overall volume of the crypto market. Even though it seems like everything is kind of going sideways or sort of zigzag, there's $100 billion that have been moving in for, the last 7 days. Okay, and this number will jump up drastically here as we get into the early adapter stage here throughout January. In other words, watch the sideways movement. There's a lot of manipulation with this. And watch, the shift, from altcoins, basically everything but these big four into, cashing out, and then going back into Bitcoin, going back into Litecoin and Ethereum, and then cashing out there, going back into altcoins. So this is what the smart money does. This is like the typical pattern of day trading, all right? And because there is like spans now of anywhere from like 10, 15 to 80% that can be gained in a day, I'd say stockbrokers and smart money representatives have discovered the taste of the crypto market. So we're going to see this up and down, and if you are informed, you can ride these waves, which I don't recommend. It's still Wild West. I still stay with what I recommended in the last update, and also the 2018 energies video, which I strongly recommend you to watch. Build a position, make sure that you feel comfortable, know what you're investing in, understand the greater vision, of a company, understand the people, the team, and really what's behind that coin. And don't just look at it as an investment. You can never outsmart the people who do this professionally. That's just the reality of it. Okay, but what you can do is you can energize people who really try to make a difference, and with that, with your contribution to that, it speeds up the vibratory rate of your investment, and with that, your alignment to abundance, if that makes any sense. I would recommend, that you sort of watch, like these movements and transpose this over here to the different stages of adaptation. Okay, so there was this low that we had, this correction here right before Christmas. And there was shock, there was resistance, there was a lot of people sold low, lost a lot of money because they don't understand the market. Then came, of course, the anger, the fear, the lashing out, oh, this is all a bubble, like leave me alone with this, blah, 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 this is all a big scam. And then, the last week or so, I'm watching this energetically, right? This is bargaining, and the cognitive, oh, I should have not sold. Oh, I should have bought more when it was lower a couple of days ago. And this looping back and forth and back and forth. This is bargaining. This is where we are in right now. And you will see that it goes into this next state, and that is what I recommend you to go. Connect with the crypto world, educate yourself, reflect on it, and take some of your fears and that sort of, oh my God, no, this is too uncertain for me. This is too Wild West. I don't want to get involved with this. There's too much insecurity. Yeah, there is. You don't have to make a move, but connect with it. Allow yourself to feel it, so that you can explore your options. And there's a lot of people, I'm not a financial advisor, obviously, and there's a nice disclaimer here with these energy updates, but those of you who are in my self-healing community here, who listening to some of these advices that I have been giving, not trading advices, but, like to inform and educate yourself about the energy of the crypto world, they've made a lot of money for the first time in their lives with tiny little investments. So, not to create sort of the fear of losing out, but guys, this is the new reality, and you better adapt to it. The longer all this takes for you, the more you're going to have regrets and cognitive dissonances later. So that's my tip for the crypto news. And summarizing here, coming to the end, the energy tips for this week, this coming week. Energy center-wise, what's happening is that our fifth chakra is now, it needs to connect with our second chakra. So fifth chakra is self-expression, talking things out, bringing things, out in the open, truth, speaking truth. with our deep emotions, with the stuff, the core stuff, the karmic ties and so forth, all the stuff, that the shadow that we've been working with, coping and so forth. You need to connect these two, because together they all want to go into alignment with your roots, with your, core values, with what you stand for, with your true needs and your true wants. Only to, and this is the energy of the next week, to form a greater vision, to form a greater perspective for you that you can align yourself to. So the affected chakras, fifth is why so many people have, upper respiratory stuff right now. Second, digestive stuff, like intestines, issues with candida and so forth, parasites. First chakra, issues in hips, knees, thighs, and feet. And all this wants to move into your head, and this, not head, but into your, your pineal gland area. Your pituitary gland wants to be a part of all this. So, just for those of you who are familiar with some of these energetic connections, and if you don't, it creates this massive headache and migraine. Okay, this is always a sign for incongruence. Okay, and what you can do about this. My tips for this week is take foot baths. Maybe, if you haven't done so, do a little bit of nutritional detox, a little more of clearing there. Go into like calming things, chamomile tea, music. Music seems very good for this week, water and music, going into this more softer and calming type of environment. Eucalyptus, I don't know if you saw the let me show them again, the flowers that I had here earlier. These are, this is eucalyptus. And so to surround yourself with eucalyptus, we talked about essential oils. We talked about, how you can, here, this is eucalyptus, but you can, of course, buy this as a tea, and or as an essential oil. This will help you to get a little more into this opening of space. Okay, check your attitude. Talk about things as they bother you. Discern your true needs, and don't project that onto others. And, don't get stuck in just clearing. Make sure that you have, an opening of your space energetically as well. Those of you who have the time or the interest, we have a workshop come up here on Saturday this weekend called Conscious Manifestation. It's an energy session with immediate live webinar where we talk about these things. It's educational and reflective at the same time. So the energy work allows you to learn these things on a deeper level. And for those of you who are members of the Sacred Self-Healing community, there's a little bonus for you. There's a little goodie for you on Friday night. We're going to be doing the current energies monthly webinar that we have, but it's going to be an hour longer than usual because we're going to channel every month of the year 2018 together. So with this culminated group of visionaries, empaths, and energetically sensitives, this is an exciting process, and you can also learn how to channel things. If you are not part of the Sacred Self-Healing journey here, the course, then you won't be able to participate. This is for members only. If you, however, consider becoming a member, there's the New Year's discount still open for you until the 7th of January. And also, those of you who are thinking about energetic clearing, there is the new beginning energetic clearing with coaching session special for the New Year's, also open for you until the 7th of January. All right, so this is it from my end here. I hope, whole baths, no, foot baths. So unless you have any more questions, I would like to let you guys go. Happy manifestation, happy opening up your manifestation and your abundance. And I hope to see you next week here, same time, 2 p.m. Denver time, every Thursday. And sign up for my energy reports and email list. Guys, this is important because you get so much more information there. And before you go, smash that like button and subscribe to my channel. All right? Thank you so much, everyone. You were a wonderful audience today. And yes, thank you for the hearts. And I hope to see you next week.